Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as we discuss the latest with Erik ten Hag, who is in trouble. More injury problems, more questions being asked, but also I think this is probably going to be one of the most interesting morning shows we've done in a long time because there are stats all over the place that we're going to look at that basically are going to make it like a game of tennis. Ten Hag in, Ten Hag out, all that jazz. Bad news for Ten Hag outers, says Luke Evans, because he has a very viable excuse with all of the injuries. We're going to talk about that because I don't think he does. I'd just like to start the show off with this headline. Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag is stuck in survival mode and he might not ever get out as the problems rise at Manchester United. I wrote that. And I think it's a very, very fair reflection of where Manchester United are this morning. We are surviving. We are scraping wins. He is surviving. The team is surviving. But will he ever get out of survival mode? That's my problem this morning. I don't see I don't see the Ten Hag out thing. You know, I'm Ten Hag in. But I am starting to be very critical of what's going on because I feel that we are stuck in a survival mode and he doesn't look like he can get out of it. He can't get his team to create chances for his striker. Rasmus hasn't scored a goal in the Premier League. He's scored goals in the Champions League, but he's not scoring in the Premier League. That is a defined issue where we can't score goals in the Premier League. We can't create chances in the Premier League. We're relying on defenders. I think Casemiro is probably still our top scorer in the Premier League. He's got mountains of problems. He is now relying on the likes of Lindelof, Maguire and McTominay, who he didn't even pick last year. And there's a reason he's relying on those players because he's burnt out the players he used last year. So we're going to dive into the facts here because what I'm looking at is I'm worried. As a Ten Hag inner, I'm worried about the future of Man United under him because I think things are getting worse. I don't think they're getting better. But then he probably will win Manager of the Month next year because there are positive things like Man United have won more points in the Premier League in the last 5 games than any other team. He's also the first manager in Manchester United's history to get to 30 wins. There are positives out there. Of course there are. But I also think under the surface there are some very, very real issues that we need to discuss this morning, revolving around injuries, style of play. The teams we've actually beaten this season are quite shocking. Happy Diwali as well. I was watching Saturday Kitchen this morning and they were cooking loads and loads of food, which is all based around Diwali. So everybody's enjoying that. Big shout out, Man Meat, as well. Lovely. Hope you're having a great time of it. I wasn't celebrating Diwali last night. I've got a bit of a hoarse throat. I was at a fireworks display having a few beers. It was lovely. So yeah, fantastic. Look, it's going to be a good show today. Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to make you think about a lot of things because I guarantee where you are now about Man United, you're going to go here, there and everywhere based on what we're about to talk about. Let's start about injuries. What's the latest with Rasmus? What's the latest with Eriksen? With Rasmus, it's obviously a leg injury. We saw him go off yesterday. At the moment, they're assessing it. He could be out for 2 days. He could be out for 2 months. They don't know at the moment. And it would be remiss or wrong of anybody to start predicting. I would prepare yourself for the worst. I mean, we've had a lot of bad luck with injury. Can I just say as well, Newcastle lost 2-0 last night. Spurs lost. The opportunity is there. There are positives. The opportunity is there for Man United to get to 4th place this season. Like, it's opening up itself. But we're not, I just don't trust us to do it. But also interesting, at the end of the game, the Newcastle travelling support, it's a long way from Newcastle to Bournemouth. Trippier, the captain, getting involved in a bit of a set too with his fans, saying, have you not seen how many injuries we've got? I thought, what a load of crap. These fans have travelled, you know, the length of the country and you're moaning about injuries. I mean, come on. And also, if Bruno Fernandes did that, he'd be absolutely slaughtered, which tells you exactly what the problem is in the UK with our press. Because if that was Bruno Fernandes saying to Man United fans after a 2-0 loss at Bournemouth, have you not seen all the injuries we've got? They'd absolutely destroy him. I actually quite like it when you get clips like that because I sit back and I go, mic drop. We've been talking about this for years. The way foreign players get treated compared to British players is absolutely abysmal. You know as well as I do, if Bruno Fernandes, after a Man United loss away from home, was shouting at the fans, have you not seen all the injuries we've got? You know, imagine what they would say. Overpaid, out of touch, arrogant bastard. That's what they would say. But no, it's Trippier, so it's absolutely fine. And they'll find a way to spin a positive. So call it out. Call it out. That's what we're here to do. But look, let's talk about the injuries. Rasmus Højlund, injured, could be long-term, could be short-term. Eriksen injured again, same thing, could be short term, could be long term. Ten Hag is talking about injuries like we're going to get better. And I have to say, it's going to get worse. And I know why it's going to get worse. We have to stop using injuries as an excuse, the same way Eddie Howe has to, the same way Pochettino has to, and the same way Ange has to. This is not something that happens and then everything goes back to normal. In the last week, Johnny Evans, Rasmus, and Eriksen have got injured. That's on top of all the horrible injuries we've got already. I think people think when we get everyone back from injury, we're going to be fine. When we get Luke Shaw back, we might lose Rashford and Højlund. It's going to keep happening because there's a very, very evidential reason why we've got injuries and why we're playing the way that we are. And I'm going to go through this now in relation to the style of play, the teams that we've beaten, and injuries. And it's really interesting. I speak to people around the club, some of them on the official, some of them not. And there has been a strong rumour around United, and you've seen it in the press anyway, over the last few months, that the reasons for the injuries are because of the way that Ten Hag trains his team. And I think you have to look at that, because I don't think some injuries are down to Ten Hag, because some of them are just down to a tackle. If you look at Andy Carroll's tackle on Eriksen in the FA Cup in January, that's nothing to do with how Eriksen is trained. That's a bad tackle, and that's caused the problem. Happy Diwali to you, Mark, and the United Stancers, Nishang. But look at the players that are injured at the moment and look at how many games they played last season. Wan-Bissaka only played about 30 games last season, but it was very intense. He didn't really start playing till December. So it was a very intense, something like 30 games for Wan-Bissaka. Martinez, 40 games. Rashford, 46 games. Casemiro, 43 games. Luke Shaw, 40 games. All these people, apart from Rashford to be fair, are picking up injuries. And they all played over 40 games last season. And they're not available. Now look at this. Lindelof, under 30 games. Maguire, 16 games. McTominay, 16 games. McTominay, Maguire, Lindelof didn't hardly play last year, and now they're in the first team. All the players that played last season, apart from Bruno, who's a robot, and Rashford, who isn't in good form, were all playing over 40 games. So all these injuries we get are because we burn our players out. The Casemiros, the Luke Shaws, the Wan-Bissakas, the Martinez, the Varane, we burn our players out. And now what we're doing is we're using the players that we didn't burn out last year. This is not about form. This is not about, ability. This is about burning out our players. And of course, Højlund wasn't here last year. Mount wasn't here last year. Onana wasn't here last year. Delot didn't play that much in the back half of last season as well. So he's another one that's not been burnt out. All the players we burnt out at the end of last season are basically injured or out of form. And all the players that are playing quite well for us, or, well, we're not playing well, are players that didn't play last year. So when people say, when we get our players back, injuries are going to be fine, that's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that these injury problems are going to keep happening because the way that we use our players, we burn them out and then we have to go back to others. So what I would predict will happen is that McTominay will get injured at some point in the next 3 or 4 months. So will Delot, so will Maguire, so will Lindelof, and we'll go back to using Casemiro, Varane, and those players again who've had a bit of a rest. This is a problem. This is a problem. And the bottom line is, injuries are not going to go away. I think there are people going, when we get everybody back, we're not going to get everybody back because we're going to continually burn out players and we're going to continually get injuries. Rasmus Højlund's probably just played, well, he certainly played 3 games in a week. We're overplaying our players. That's what's happening. We're overplaying our players. The same players get picked last season and the same players are getting picked this season and our players are getting burnt out. It's really simple. And I don't think it's going to get any better. So that's a massive concern because I think there is this belief in the fan base that we're suddenly going to get everybody back, and we're not. We've had 3 separate injuries to 3 separate players in the last week. 2 weeks before that, or the week before that, we had Casemiro against Newcastle. From the last international break to this one, we've picked up quite a few injuries. We are regularly picking up injuries. There is a training issue at Manchester United. Now, it might not be Ten Hag's issue, it might be fitness, but there is a problem. Such an unhinged comment about Trippier, because if Rashford said the same to fans, you and everyone else would crucify him. Now, what to do with foreign bias is not important. I disagree. It's not about. I actually will come back on that one with a comment that will sit you down. We were talking about the media. and the foreign bias, we weren't talking about fans. So I've jumped headfirst into shark-infested waters and been devoured. Jared has been a member for 16 months. Thank you very much. And also, let's just move on to something else I want to talk about, because regards to injuries, that is very interesting. The McTominays, the Maguires, the Lindelofs hardly played last year, and now they're big important players. All the big important players last year who were overplayed are all bloody injured. So you've got to look at this and go, this is just not how to manage a squad. I also have a big problem with the way that we're playing football at the moment. For me, there are so many stats in football, but I think that one of the big things for me as a football fan and as a Man United fan is, at the end of the game, how many shots have we had on target compared to the opposition? Because you can shoot 20 times from 30 yards out and never hit it on target. But generally, I think shots on target is I don't really trust stats anyway, but I think shots on target at the end of a game gives you a good indication of how the game sort of went. If Wolves beat Man City 1-0, I'll look at shots on target, because I guarantee Wolves will have had 2 and Man City will have had 8. And it will just be one of those days where Man City couldn't put it in the back of the net, but they had the better of the play. And that's what did happen in that game. Look at United's style of play at the moment. At home to Luton yesterday, 4 shots on target for Luton, 4 shots on target for Manchester United. That's Manchester United at Old Trafford against Luton Town. 4 shots on target for them, 4 shots on target for us. And we're meant to believe we're playing good football. Against Copenhagen in Copenhagen, 8 shots on target for them, 8 shots on target for us. Against Fulham last week, 3 shots on target for them, 5 shots on target for us. But they did have 18 shots altogether to our 12. So again, very, very close. Newcastle in the Carabao Cup, we're at home, 2 shots on target in 90 minutes at Old Trafford, 5 shots on target for Newcastle. City, well, no surprises here, 3 shots on target for us, 10 shots on target for them. Copenhagen at home, where we won 1-0, 5 shots on target for us, 4 shots on target for them. And then Sheffield United, where we beat them 1-0, 6 shots on target for Sheffield United, 5 shots on target for us. Mate, tell me about the style of play at Man United at the moment. It's getting by. Like, everybody we play, we are letting, I don't even know what to describe it as, but 4 shots on target with Luton, 4 shots on target for us yesterday. And this has been consistent this international break. Short-term goals like top 4 having a detrimental impact on our long-term success. Managers are under public pressure and never establish a style of play, says Zero. It's survival football. The squad doesn't have the players to play Ten Hag ball, apart from those that are now burnt out. 3 windows, and hopefully we will, was always this way, says Sam. Mark, you can't blame Ten Hag for the club not supplying him with enough good players to rotate them, says Martin. Well, these are all valid points. I'm just feeding you the facts this morning that since the last international break against Sheffield United, Copenhagen twice, Man City, Fulham and Luton and Newcastle in the Carabao Cup, we haven't played well. We've won 3 Premier League games out of 4, but we haven't played well. And that's another thing as well. We are in a position at the moment where we can pounce, apparently. We can pounce. We're not far off top 4, and we can pounce. Do you think we're going to pounce? I don't think we're going to pounce. I don't think we're going to pounce at all, because I've looked at the games that we've won, and 3 of our wins, we've won 7 games in the Premier League, right? 3 of our wins, Luton, Sheffield United and Burnley. The bottom 3, basically. So 3 of our wins are against the bottom 3. 1-0 each time. Forest, they're down near the bottom. Fulham, they're down near the bottom. Brentford are actually the highest team we've beat in 9th, but let's be honest, it wasn't convincing. And Wolves we beat on the opening day, and they deserve to beat us. We've won 7 games against teams that are all pretty much down in the bottom half or relegation zone, to be frank. And that doesn't, we're not playing well. We've got huge amounts of injuries, which I think are going to continue. And the games that we're winning are against teams that, you really should be winning. And let's not forget, in the Champions League, how we've still got a chance of qualifying from the Champions League when we've lost 3 out of 4 is almost, UEFA should say you're not qualifying. I mean, how we've got a chance of qualifying, I do not know. 3 losses out of 4 in that as well. So it's not good. And I find myself in this position where I'm sort of going, well, I'm very worried. I'm very worried indeed. We've got some really tough games coming after the international break. I think from tomorrow, we're going to get bombarded with spin about the Sir Jim Radcliffe stuff, which will take our minds away, some might say good, from the current situation with Manchester United. But I woke up this morning and I was just like, do you feel any different this morning than you did after that Luton game yesterday? Because I think the majority of Manchester United yesterday, Joe says Mark's mood dictates the show, then he finds stats to back it up. Joe, I'm not finding stats to back it up. I think you just need to go back to bed and have a sleep. You've been on a long shift or something, or I don't know what your problem is. I support Manchester United and I support this manager, but I felt fed up after Luton yesterday, and I feel fed up this morning. You don't have to, Joe, but tell us what the positive is. I'll go back to what I said at the start of the show. Eric Ten Hag is trapped in survival mode, and I don't think he's going to get out. That's a headline for you to tell me why I'm wrong, or why everyone else who thinks I'm right is wrong. Are we playing survival mode football? I've just told you why we're playing survival mode football. We're playing against Sheffield United and Luton, and we're having the same amount of shots, scraping, and Fulham scraping 1-0 wins or 2-1 wins. We are championing, quite rightly, performances from Victor Lindelof, Harry Maguire and Scott McTominay, who we know aren't good enough, but are now big players in our first 11. We've got injuries that are stacking up and will continue to stack up, and the wins that we've had are against teams that aren't even that good in the league that we play. I think we are in survival mode, and I don't know that Ten Hag knows how to get out of it. And I've seen this happen with Mourinho and Solskjaer. It's the last chapter. You turn away from what you were trying to do to survive. And you survive for so long, but then survival football will never, ever work against the likes of City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Brighton, Newcastle. They'll beat you. And then he's in trouble. He's got to step out of survival mode, and he's got to find a way in international break to find a way to step out of it. Because he can't continue going to Goodison Park, St James's Park, Anfield, playing like what we've seen yesterday and for the last month. You can't. We've been there with Maguire and Lindelof and McTominay and Eriksen, and it will get torn apart. We can't keep living off a scrappy Lindelof goal in the box. We can't. It won't work. I want him to stay. I think sacking a manager is ridiculous. But on the other hand, I can't lie and sit here and say everything looks, it's looking good. I've looked at the league this morning. I'm really positive about what's going to happen. Martial comes on again. Palestri ignored. How is this looking to the future? Great work at Fulham. He should leave this club before his career rots, says Cyril. So yeah, look, I'm always going to be open to what other people think, and I'm 100% sure that there's probably 80, 90% of the people watching, like myself, that doesn't want to see Ten Hag get sacked. But I think he's in a massive problem. As I said, injury-wise, wake up and smell the coffee. Stop thinking that we're unlucky. Look, Trippier's a prat as well. Have you seen the injuries? Why are people getting so many injuries? Let's look at why people are getting so many injuries. Why are Man United getting so many injuries? It's not bad luck. It's too many games for too many players. No, it's too many games for too few players. And why does Eddie Howe and Ten Hag overplay their players? Because if they use the other players, they'll lose games and they want to win. They've got to try and win every game. Ten Hag has given you the biggest clue why we have injury problems at Man United. Because we have to win every game. Last season, from January to May, we were playing 3 games a week. Weekend, midweek, weekend. And didn't rotate the team. He didn't rotate that team much at all. And now, most of those players, Rashford, Bruno, out of form. Eriksen, Martinez, Shaw, Casemiro, injured. Wan-Bissaka's been injured. Varane out of form. All his big players last year are not playing well or injured because he overplayed them to win things. And he did win things. We got 3rd place and we got to 2 cup finals and we won a trophy. The flip side of that coin is it's not sustainable. And they're all either injured or out of form now. So I don't really understand managers when they go, oh, the injury problems are... At the end of the day, it's a cop-out, isn't it? When a manager sits there and goes, we're really unlucky with injuries, somebody should put their hand up, and when they get pointed at, say, but you're not unlucky with injuries, are you? Well, we are. No, but you're not unlucky with injuries. What you're unlucky with is you've got a club that won't give you a squad like Man City. That's the honest answer, Eric, isn't it? Because if you look at the amount of times you've picked those players over the last 12 months, there's a very high percentage that those players are going to get injured. We're all more aware now of sports science, and if you look at the way you try to play football and the intensity you play at, the amount of times you pick those players, there's a very, very high chance that you're going to pick up injuries. Well, I'd love to see what Ten Hag's answer would be to that, because he'd have to lie or tell the truth. The bottom line is, and it was said by somebody a few minutes ago, Ten Hag's biggest problem is he doesn't have the squad depth when the injuries hit. We've bought a ball-playing goalkeeper, and we've got 2 centre-backs that he can't really pass to because they're not really progressive centre-backs. Maguire and Lindelof are not anywhere near what Man City or Liverpool or Arsenal or even Brighton have in relation to the ability to play out from the back. So he's bought this Onana for £50 million and he can't use him. And that's why people look at Onana and go, oh, I'd rather have kept De Gea, because basically Onana is only good as a shot stopper now because we can't use him in the way that he was bought for. So the big problem that Ten Hag has is he's burnt his good players out, his backup players can't play the way that he wants to play, and we end up in survival football because he hasn't got the squad that he needs, and the cycle continues. I agree with what somebody said. If Ten Hag gets sacked, he's not going to get sacked because Martinez and Shaw and Casemiro have let him down. It'll be because he's picking McTominay, Eriksen in the midfield, and Maguire and Lindelof at centre-back, who are decent-ish players, and they, a couple of them played well yesterday, but it's not. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for 3 years used those players, apart from Eriksen, and the football was crap. Ten Hag has used them for the last few weeks, and the football is crap. Now, Maguire's played well the last few weeks, but the football's crap. Lindelof scored the winner yesterday, but the football is crap. McTominay did okay yesterday and has scored a few goals over the last few weeks, but the football is crap. What some people and the media cannot understand is you'll see them going, oh, a redemption arc from McTominay and Maguire and Lindelof. And in a sense, they're talking shit, because what redemption arc is this? Beating Sheffield United 2-1, beating Fulham 1-0 and Luton 1-0, but losing and getting smacked up by Man City and Newcastle. The football is shite. This is not a redemption arc because we're not playing well. We're just surviving. And those players are actually very good at that. I think if you put Harry Maguire in a West Ham shirt, he'd be a very good centre-back. I think if you put Scott McTominay in an Everton shirt, he'd be a very good midfielder. I think if you put Victor Lindelof in a Crystal Palace shirt, he'd be a very good defender. But put them in a Man United team and you will play like Everton and Crystal Palace, because that's sort of the level we're at the moment. If we'd played any other team that wasn't a relegation contender yesterday at home, we would have been beaten. We were there for the taking. Luton and Sheffield United don't really have the quality to do anything about it. So as I said, we're playing survival football, and I don't know when he's going to change it, because I think when we play Everton after the international break, he's not going to make any changes. Some of them he can't make. He can't play Casemiro. He can't play Martinez. He can't play Luke Shaw. He won't pick Varane. It'll be the same team again, and we'll have to hope that we keep a clean sheet and we get a moment again. The creativity is not there on the pitch at this point. I believe Europa League might be our only option to get back into the Champions League, says Ricky. Well, look, let me just go through some of the stuff that Ten Hag said after the game yesterday, because he's got a 1-match ban now against Everton, which I don't really know how those things work out. At the end of the day, this is what he had to say. Even after all the setbacks this season, we're still in a position near the top 4. We have won 4 from 5 in the Premier League. If you oversee all the trouble we've had, we are in a very good position. This is a great statement from Ten Hag. This is where I go, oh, you know what? Come on, Eric, we're going to do it. We, after all the setbacks, we're in a good position near the top 4. We've had 4 from 5. And then I go, what setbacks? Playing bad football and injuries, which are self-inflicted. We're in a good position. We've won 4 of the last 5. Yeah, we've beaten Fulham, Sheffield United, Luton, and I can't remember what the other Premier League win was before that. But, probably Brentford, where we scrapped it. So they're not convincing wins, but they are wins. We are in a position in the Premier League where we can pounce, but we're not pouncing anywhere unless he changes things very quickly over the international break. On Eriksen, he says it's the same as Højlund. We've got to wait. We spoke about that. Eric Ten Hag says, we had lots of chances today, but a problem with finishing. It will come and make our lives easier. We had 4 shots on target, Eric. They had 4 shots on target, and general shots was very similar. So let's not act like it was one of those days where we missed chance after chance. I think the biggest chance missed was Garnacho, and the other chance were half chances. So, you know. Eric Ten Hag, not just possession, but also a lot of chances. Garnacho, Rashford, a chance for Højlund, I think. Very good chance on, very good cross from Rashford. So we had chances to score. But when you don't, the opposition can take advantage of it. I mean, I want to believe him, but I'm struggling at the moment. Even as somebody that really admires and wants him to do well, I'm really, really worried about United at the moment, and I'm not going to lie about that. But also, Højlund has scored 5 goals in the Champions League, the highest level, so he's capable of scoring goals. Marcus Rashford, it will come. There will be a day when they start scoring goals, which we've heard before. And on his current record, which is obviously talking about 30 Premier League wins quicker than anyone else. Not bad, but it's not like I can celebrate that. We need to play better. Even with good performances, we're still close to where we want to be. If we start to play well, it will be easier to get there. The other clubs will have setbacks. Things will turn around. I mean, look, and I like that comment from Ten Hag that, you know, we're not playing well. And if we do start playing well, things will turn around. We're not that far off. But I go back and say what I've said to you before. We're playing survival football. How are you going to change it? Like, what is it you're looking to? What is it? Like, we're not playing well, are we? So, if we start playing well, we'll start climbing the league. But how are you going to play well? I can't read the person's name here, but he says you can see what Eric Ten Hag is doing, building solidity and structure. Creativity is increasing game by game. I can't see what he's doing, mate. I'm sorry, I can't see what he's doing. And I'm somebody that wants him to do well, but I can't see what he's doing. I'm sorry, I feel apologetic, but I can't see what he's doing. What is he doing? Solidarity and structure. What is that? How's that going to be the building blocks for football that will challenge the likes of Liverpool and Arsenal and Newcastle and Brighton and Villa? Like, when you're telling me that the team he's picking at the moment with Dalot and Reguilon and Maguire and Lindelof and McTominay and Eriksen and Rashford and Bruno and Garnacho and Højlund, you're telling me we just need to give them more time and we'll start playing like Man City? I'm telling you now, the team he's picking at the moment is being picked because they're players that are fresh that he didn't use last year. I can see it for what it is. I woke up this morning and saw facts. Like, he's burnt out his best team and he can't use it. So he's now using the players that he didn't use last year. As I said, McTominay and Maguire didn't play 20 games last year. Lindelof played under 30. Dalot was hardly used in the second half of the season. They're all starting for United now. And Reguilon, who wasn't here. Eriksen missed the second half of last season as well. He is relying on players on freshness. And he has binned off players that are injured and not playing well. So I don't see this is Ten Hag. I don't think Ten Hag woke up one morning and went, you know what I really need to do? I need McTominay and Eriksen as my midfield, Maguire and Lindelof as my centre-backs, Dalot back at right-back, we'll bring Reguilon in. It's survival football, and the players that he's picking actually don't fit well together. They're never going to play good football. They will be grinding out results until he either changes it or he loses his job. And that's where I think I am at the moment. I don't see any future in the team that he's picking at the moment, because I've seen them, some of them for a few years, some of them just aren't good enough. We're in survival mode, and I've got to be honest, I sort of relish the stories that are about to come out from Sir Jim Radcliffe's camp over the next 2 weeks for some escapism, because I'm worried about the games we've got after the international break. I'm tired of watching what we're playing at the moment. I mean, we're Manchester United. I said it yesterday. We're Manchester United. I've seen the Rooneys, the Ronaldos, the Cantonars, the Beckhams, the Giggs, you know, entertaining, exhilarating football you took for granted for years. And we're watching this now. And it's hard. It's hard. All anybody wants in football and in life, to a certain extent, is a vision. A vision. And people will be patient with a vision. People will wait for a vision. Newcastle fans at the moment will be disappointed losing to Bournemouth, but they know they're rich. And they know that over the next 2 or 3 years, like the last 18 months, they're going to be on an exciting journey. And they know they're probably going to get knocked out of the Champions League, but they know they've got the ambition and wealth to there is a vision. At United at the moment, there is no vision in that team at all. And Ten Hag this season, unfortunately, sounds a lot like Mourinho and Ollie in their last year. He's using similar players and he's using similar language and he's talking about things that just aren't actually happening. And I'm worried. I'm worried for him because I do not want to see a Manchester United manager sacked and I don't want to see Erik Ten Hag sacked. But there were people who went to that game yesterday who are Ten Hag in, who are going to be sat there this morning going, that was bloody diabolical. And on top of that, Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, they're off for international duty now. They're not going to come back, fresh. They're going to come back hopefully exhilarated, but they're not going to be any fresher. I don't know. Look, I always feel like this was meant to be therapy for me this morning, but I've actually talked myself into a bit of a hole. This has been the case all season, says Tom. Mickey says, that's your opinion, not everyone's. Mickey, grow up and write a proper comment. Like, come on. We've been doing this for nearly 10 years. Grow up. Like, I'm literally projecting my opinion. Of course I am. If you have a different opinion, then give us a different opinion. But what's the point of a comment that says that's just your opinion, not everyone else's? Well, of course. If I walk into my kitchen and have a coffee, someone else might want a cup of tea. I get that. I am basically projecting my mood on you this morning. Apologies, but I've tried to do it in a very structured way so that you can understand mine, so that people don't just go, oh, he's just being moaning and negative. But I am moaning and being negative. I acknowledge that, but I'm worried. You know what? It's tiring. I think people forget this. It's tiring defending a manager like I have and like some of you have over the last month from the media pylon, from some of our fans, and going, that's my manager. The Fulham game, I really enjoyed that. It was a survival game. It was a battle. It was hard work. We won it at the end. And how I felt after the Fulham game a week ago, I was like, oh, this could be this. Let's have this be the start of something. We can go to Copenhagen and win, and we'll definitely beat Luton by a few goals. And then we go into the international break with a bit more momentum. And then that Fulham game is forgotten because at Copenhagen, and I'm not having the red card, everybody I've spoken to over the last few days, whether it's United fans, Villa fans, whatever, everybody has said it wasn't a red card, but when you're 2-0 up with 10 men, you don't lose the game anyway. You've got a 2-goal buffer against a team that's not that good, and we bottled that. And then yesterday against Luton, it's worse than Fulham. I mean, it was dreadful. And you sat here going, well, I'm not an idiot. Some people think I am. I'm not an idiot. I can't just keep defending the manager saying Ten Hag in, and then people will go, why? Why though? Why? And I am Ten Hag in, and I want him to do well. And I do think the solution is to give him 20 players that he wants, which we haven't done, because that's what Pep's got, and that's what you need to do. And if anybody disagrees with that, well, look at Onana. 50 million quid. We get rid of one of the best shot stoppers in the world to spend 50 million pounds on Onana. It's the most ridiculous waste of money ever, unless you understand why he did it. He did it because he wanted a good shot stopper like De Gea who can pass out from the back. The problem is all the players that he can pass to are injured or out of form, so we can't pass out from the back. So that's a prime example of why Ten Hag needs 4 centre-backs who can receive the ball from the goalkeeper, so that if 2 get injured, you've got 2 who can take it. So he needs a squad of 20 players that can play the way he wants to play. The team he's picking at the moment is not the way he wants to play. It's just, you make... great point this is. Tell me if I'm wrong. We could put Ole Gunnar Solskjaer back in charge of Man United at the moment. He could get that team to play the way that Ten Hag's playing. And that's the problem. There is no vision. There is no style of play. Because we are stuck in survival mode. And I question when or if he's going to come out of it. Because if he's going to keep playing like we are, we're either going to grind ourselves to top 4 playing shit, or we're going to start losing again. And then he's going to be in big trouble. So it's big balls time, isn't it? It's really about what Ten Hag wants to do over the next month, because we're playing Everton away, Newcastle away, Liverpool away, West Ham away, all before Christmas. We've got Chelsea at home. We've got Villa on Boxing Day at home. We've got the games against Galatasaray and Bayern Munich. There are big games to come. Is he going to continue with this survival mode, or is he going to actually try and do something different? And I think he's got to try and do something different, because survival mode, you'll start losing, and then it's all right. Look, we're winning and people aren't happy with how we're playing. Imagine what happens when you start drawing and losing. That's when the pressure ramps up. There's people in the media today saying it's not acceptable. You know, it's not acceptable. Yes, United won, but it's not acceptable. They're still coming for him, even when he wins. So he's got, the obvious solution is you've got to start playing better football. Points, Erik Ten Hag, 96, Klopp, 92 after first 50 Premier League games, is Anarud. But it's irrelevant, mate, because it's not going to kill the momentum of people who are not happy. Those sort of stats are very good. Basically, Ten Hag has got more points than Klopp after his first 50 Premier League games. It's true. We should all be happy and positive and wander away. But you know what the comeback's going to be? Do Man United look like they're building a system that's going to win the league and the Champions League? Because that's what Klopp did. And it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like, you can't say Ten Hag's better than Klopp, because the journey of Klopp has been completed. Whatever happened in those first 50 games, maybe had to lose some games because to get players used to the style he wanted to play. What I would say is, I'd like to see where Liverpool were as a team after 50 Premier League games, because I guarantee as a team, they were moving more towards what they became. As a Ten Hag side, we've just beaten Luton, Fulham and Sheffield United in the league this month with a style of football that Ollie was playing. So it's not just about how many wins you get in your first 50 Premier League games. It's about what your team is evolving into. And at the moment, what are we evolving into at the moment? I don't know. Moses says you're toxic. You're on the wrong channel, mate. Not toxic at all. This is actually a community that is very open and honest and talks about how it feels. And we're certainly not toxic. It's just about reality. I actually backed the manager in the club. Apologies for that. I shouldn't read those chats. I know it's because I've had a few to drink last night and I'm a bit hungover. Yeah, I shouldn't read those chats, because we're not, you know, you can watch the channel or you can't watch the channel. I don't care. I'm way past, you know, trying to build an audience. We have an audience. If it stays the same, if it drops off a little bit, I really don't care. We've done what we set out to do. We succeeded. So I'm not here to try and winfluence people. You know, that's not what it is. It's a community that we've built over many years, where those who are part of the community understand that it's not always an easy conversation. There is a bit of back and forth. The bottom line is, I want Ten Hag to succeed, but I've been very consistent since the summer that I don't really recognise him from last year. I don't recognise the team he was building. I don't recognise him in press conferences. I don't recognise a lot of the positivity from last season seemed to disappear. As soon as we went on pre-season, and I said it on some of the shows as well, as soon as we went on pre-season, I was just like, and look, what I'm talking about this morning is not new. Maybe there's new people watching the show who, you know, don't get it, and I would say goodbye and don't come back. We don't really want you, because you're not going to enjoy it. Obviously, I'm a massive fan of Ten Hag, desperately wanted him to get the job, really want him to succeed, don't see the point in sacking a manager. I would rather new owners came in and said, look, what 20 players do you want? Let's get them in. I'd like to see that happen. Whether that'll happen or not, I don't know. But I said this on the reaction last night. I don't know why we live in this world of Ten Hag in and Ten Hag out. I'd rather remove it. Because if you remove the Ten Hag in and Ten Hag out argument, and you just, you know, debate in the middle, there it's a safer place, because you can say negative things and positive things without people calling you a Ten Hag in or a Ten Hag outer. And where I am is I'm not even thinking about sackings or new contracts. I'm thinking about now, this season. And I'm like, there's a lot to be worried and negative about, but I don't want Ten Hag to be sacked. I'd rather solve those problems is what I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm worried and that we're in a false position and we should be in a worse position and we're going to get more injuries and the football's crap and we've got hard games to come. All those things worry me, but the solution is not to sack the manager. The solution is to provide this mythical structure around him and look at why we're picking up so many injuries, because I guarantee you we are picking up injuries because of the way we're training our players. They won't admit it because that's like saying we're broke when you're driving around in a Ferrari trying to put up a brave front. We're definitely picking up injuries because of how we've overutilised our players. How are we going to change that? Why can't we play out from the back with a ball-playing goalkeeper? How are we going to change that? Why aren't we, dominating teams a little bit more? Why are Luton having the same amount of shots on target as us? Why are Fulham having the same? Why are Sheffield United having more? What's going on? Why are we scraping wins against teams we should be dominating? Why can't we dominate them? Why can't you pick a midfield that at least gets hold of the game for half of it, instead of it being this 50-50 battle every game because we can't get hold of a midfield? I want to solve these problems, because they are problems and they're going to be problems. Everton, I think, are unbeaten in quite a few recently. We're going to Goodison Park, we're going to Galatasaray, we're going to Newcastle. We could win all three of those games and then suddenly we're in a positive mood. I'm not saying that this season is over. I'm not saying that Ten Hag's finished. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I'm very, very worried at the moment. We're going into a very tough period after the international break. And as we know with football, things can change very quickly. We could be, at the end of that week, beating Everton, beating Galatasaray, beating Newcastle, looking like we're going to go through in the Champions League and looking like we're going to get in a race for top four. That's how close that is to grasp. On the other hand, we could lose a couple of those games out of the Champions League, dropping down the Premier League, still playing shit football, Anfield on the horizon, and you go, yeah, we've been to Anfield before, and a manager got sacked in December and his name was Jose Mourinho. Imagine the scenario where we continue playing like we are and Ten Hag goes to Anfield and gets battered. That's the game. I'm telling you now, that is the game that all the media and all the people who are Ten Hag have got it marked in their diary. Anfield, December, Manchester United. If things don't upturn by then and we keep playing like we are, that'll be the game where they go, right, that's where we're going to get rid of him, because Mourinho got sacked after Anfield, and remember, Ten Hag has been there once before. It's never acceptable to get beat 7-0 at Anfield, but imagine if it happens twice in a row. And this is what I mean. That's why I'm worried, because as somebody who doesn't want him to get the sack, I'm starting to see how vulnerable his position is, because when you're losing the fans because of your style of play, and you're losing the fans because of, there is a minority that want him gone, and your team is just so lacking identity, and you're Man United, and a new owner in some way, shape or form is coming in, who wants to make changes. I mean, I would not be surprised if Ten Hag wasn't Man United manager on January the 1st. I think he will be, and I'm hoping he will be, but my eyes are wide open to just how vulnerable this position is. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope it doesn't happen. Keep up the great work. I've seen this since early 80s, and I agree with you, says Paul Woolley. Can I just run a poll, actually? I just want to... it's almost like... it's almost like we're running this on a weekly basis, but I know where we were last week, and I just want to run it now, just while we read some of your comments. So Ten Hag in or Ten Hag out? I just want to get where we are at the moment. Make sure you smash a like on the video, by the way. Tor says we need more patience with Erik Ten Hag. We knew this change was not done overnight. I agree, Tor. I really, really do. And I've always said last season is hurting this season, because last season we did really, really well and we overachieved in year one. And this season it's completely and utterly unrecognisable. I said it on the watch along yesterday. I don't see the correlation between Man United last season and Man United this season. It's like having a different manager. Like, so much of that team isn't playing anymore, or is injured, or is not here anymore. But also, the way we played last season, all right, it wasn't scintillating, but it was certainly better. And this season, it's like a different team. Hi, Mark. Imagine being Erik Ten Hag with a squad of players, about a third of them he doesn't want. I don't think any manager would be able to do any better. We will get through the woods, says Mr. D. I hope so, mate. I hope so. But you know what? To get through those woods, he's got to win games. With regards to... look, this is why I'm worried. I'm not worried because I think, let's sack the manager. I'm worried because this isn't the summer. I've seen managers survive because of the summer. I remember that summer where Mourinho, the summer before Mourinho got sacked, a lot of people were saying, get rid of him anyway. And I was like, I didn't want him to go. So we had this summer where you get a pre-season, get a bit of transfers done, and you survive for 3 months. Like, Ten Hag hasn't got a summer. He's got 2 weeks. And then it's bang, 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 3 games away in 6 days. I'm worried because you can't survive losses. You can't survive losses. And if he starts losing again... Look, hands on my head. Don't know what that means. I hope we grind 3 shit results out against Newcastle, Everton and Galatasaray. And by that I mean we grind 3 1-0s out like yesterday. We'll still be moaning, saying this is unsustainable, it's survival football, but at least he's just got to... And then I become a hypocrite because I'm like, I'm moaning about how bad we're playing and, where's the vision and all that. But I do want him to survive. But it's just not pretty, is it? And how long can that go on for? It's great to see that we've got nearly 80% of people Ten Hag in as well. So I think this is intelligent. It's not always... I'm not always going to blow smoke up your arse, but I do think we've got a very good community. And I like the fact that we can have a bit of a vent about reality and things aren't good enough, but it doesn't need to go as far as saying, let's get rid of the manager. Because I think there are mitigating circumstances, certainly. So thanks everyone who voted on that, because it is encouraging to see that it is, well, over 75% Ten Hag in, and it's pushing 80%. So that just, that makes me feel happy, because it restores my faith in the fact that, sacking a manager is not going to do any good. And of course, let's go back where we were 2 weeks ago. Sacking a manager has not and will never mean bringing in Zidane. It won't. It won't bring in Simeone either. Manchester United, when they sack a manager at Christmas, give jobs to people like Solskjaer and Steve McLaren and Darren Fletcher. They don't go and get a proper manager. So we're not going to sack Ten Hag and then bring a manager in that's going to take the job now anyway. So I would say this time, from a financial point of view, you may as well keep Ten Hag till the end of the summer, even if it gets really bad. I would. Sacking Ten Hag, new manager will also face the same shitty players. Erik Ten Hag sometimes is just too stubborn in his decisions, says hi. Yeah, and I think that's the best way of looking at it. There is a lot of things that Ten Hag is getting wrong at the moment, and we must be critical of those. But he also is, through some part of his own, but also outside of his own control, in very, very difficult circumstances. But it's hard to see what he's going to do to change it, because in a way, look, he's got to get hold of the midfield. I've always got an answer. He's got to get hold of that midfield. He has to get hold of that midfield. That's the area he's got to change it. That's the area that will make the difference. We've got to get hold of that midfield. We can't play Luton and Fulham and Sheffield United and Copenhagen and have 50-50 battles in the midfield, because when you play a decent midfield, we'll get dominated. He's got to get hold of the midfield. I might be really in the minority here, but he's got to get Amrabat in that team. Like, why did we bring him in and then you put him at left back, you play him hardly at all in the midfield, and then you've discarded him? Like, you've got to get Amrabat in there. You've got to get a bit of bite in there. Why were we so good last year? Because we had Casemiro playing well. Who's the closest thing to Casemiro? Nobody, because Casemiro is one of the best holding midfielders in the game in the last decade. But the closest thing we have to Casemiro is Amrabat. We've got to get somebody in that midfield who's got a bit of bite, and I think he's the best person to do it. Mark, if we change manager now, we are still stuck with players that are not good enough. He needs time and new players, says Anthony. Well, look, we've got the 8 o'clock show tonight, which is a bit more of an open show, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm doing Man City against Chelsea, or Chelsea against Man City this afternoon, which I think is going to be a very interesting game because we have got Chelsea coming up very soon as well. And you can join me on That's Football for that. Thanks everyone for watching this morning. I hope it's been a show that certainly generated some thoughts. I promised it would at the start. We've spoken about injuries and why they are happening and why certain players are playing now. Basically, he's burnt out all his good players and he's using the players he didn't use last year. That's why he's using certain players. The wins that we have, when you look at them, are against teams in relegation zone and bottom half of the league. The style of play is a real concern. When you look at all the games we've played in the last month, they've been very, very 50-50. But the positives are, he's the first manager in Premier League history for Manchester United to get to 30 wins. He is the first. He's got he's won 4 of his last 5 Premier League games, and we are in a position where top 4 isn't that far away. You can go either way on this, but ultimately Ten Hag is at the wheel. And is he going to continue with this survival football and not ever get out of it? Or is he actually going to start evolving this team, which is surely what has to happen? You say he needs 20 players, but 18 were signed or given a new contract by him. You also called Jose out for talking about top 4 before Christmas, but praised Ten Hag. Mason, I think you're a bit of a stalker. I can't talk about comments about Jose Mourinho from 4 years ago and what I said about Christmas. So I don't know. I'm not going to answer something because you might be clipping me up from videos 4 years ago. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't agree with you about 18 players either. I'd love to know the 18 players that he's signed. But all I'll say about Mourinho is that I backed Mourinho until October. And he was sacked at the start of December. So I was very, very late with Jose. But I can't come back on you on something that I don't really know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. I like to, but I don't know what you're talking about. And I think you're actually factually incorrect, especially about the 18 players. Netflix and Chilwell. Ten Hag needs to stay. I think if we offered him a new contract, the players would have to either give their all or look elsewhere, says Netflix and Chilwell. Yeah, and one thing I'll leave you with is, if Ten Hag does stay, the rebuild is huge. Like, Casemiro and Varane are gone. Like, they're gone. There's no point rebuilding with players like that. They're into their 30s, they're expensive, they're gone. What's he going to do with Rashford and Bruno? Because their form is disappointing, but they're just overplayed. What's he going to do about another striker? Because Rasmus is now injured because he has to keep using Rasmus. He's overplayed Rasmus, and that's the bottom line. Ten Hag overplays players, and then they get injured, and then we moan about injuries. So what are we going to do about preventing that happening? Because we need Martinez and Shaw and Rashford and Bruno playing well. And they're not playing well because they're playing too many games and 2 of them are injured. We will do the same with Rasmus. We will overplay him. So there's a huge rebuild needed. We don't know whether we've got the money to do it yet. And as part of that rebuild, we probably need 2 good centre-backs, another right-back, 2 midfielders, another striker. There's so much that needs doing, and I think it's going to be a very, very big job. Thanks everyone for watching. You're legends in the chat. I hope you have a great day. I will see you on That's Football for Chelsea Man City at 4 and obviously 8 o'clock show here tonight. It's going to be a big week on the United Stand, by the way. It's going to be a big week around Manchester United. Lots of stuff is going to start hitting tomorrow morning around the sale and what's going on with that. So fasten your seatbelts for that, which will take us away from the football, which I think is what we bloody well need a little bit. We need to start having a plan around the structure of this football club too, because we are stuck in this survival mode and someone's got to get us out of it. I'll speak to you all in a bit.